How's it going? Thank you for watching this video as well. Now, you might be wondering why I'm wearing these glasses. Now, I'm staring at three screens during the daytime, right? All day, and now it's 2:30 a.m. at night, so I do need some protection for my eyes, man. But yeah, that being said, this is actually quite a worthy investment as well. Now, what is a client acquisition system? The reason why I wanted to explain this to you is because before you get into the call, if you know a little bit about the basics of acquisition systems, then the call will go a lot smoother. If you go into the call knowing absolutely nothing about client acquisition systems and how they work, then chances are the majority of the call, we're just going to have to explain to you what a client acquisition system actually is and the basics of it, and we're just going to waste your time doing that. So I just want to make sure you actually fully understand what a client acquisition system is before we get into it. Now, funnily enough, I actually have a diagram here for you. So inputs, we got processes, we got outputs, we got feedback, and we have the environment. Right? So the input is whatever you actually input into the system. For example, cold leads from lead magnets, ad funnels, things of that nature. And then we have the processes, the internal processes of the system that actually convert a cold lead / warm lead into a client, right? And that is the output. And then from the output, you can find out, the conversion rates, and the KPIs if they're below KPI, blah, 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 all that sort of good stuff. And that is the feedback. And then that feeds back into the inputs where you can actually, change a little bit up from the processes. But anyway, everything around that is going to be dictated by the environment, right? And the environment is what we like to call the market. So we have a little bit of a cheat sheet here for you as well. So here's what the client acquisition system actually looks like. So if we're gonna compare that to this diagram here, this is what it actually looks like in terms of more things you can grasp onto, right? Sorry if I'm a little bit tongue tied today. I have been in meetings all day, so bear with me if I'm stumbling over my words a little bit. But again, we start off with your leads. We go into your conversion tools, which could be your email marketing, your landing page conversions, stuff like that. They get converted into clients, and then once you get to that, give me a second. Once you get into that last bit here, then you can understand all the metrics of the system. So for example, the conversion rates, and then you feed that back into the client acquisition system, and then you can change a few things up. Now, again, we have your cheat sheet over here that you can look at. If you want, send me an email. I can actually email you this whole document as well, if you wanted to have a look at it in your own time and study it. But honestly, I'll explain a lot to you on the day and on the call, so there's really no need to do that. Now, firstly, not firstly, we went through kind of the broad idea of what a client acquisition system is already. Let's get into the more of the meat and bones and the potatoes, if you will, right? So this is more what I'm talking about when I say the client acquisition system. So the system is what actually converts, for example, latent conditions to attention, from attention to interest, from interest to appointments to shows to prime prospects to close deals. Obviously, this can vary depending on what kind of business structure you're working with. This structure is more of a agency sort of structure. So it's if you're gonna go into coaching, it's more for like coaches, agencies. For gyms, you would kind of skip this appointments section, this middle section, and you would need to increase the conversion rates from the outskirts sections here. But I'll give you a few examples of what I mean by when I say each one of these, right? So latent conditions. What I mean by latent conditions. Let's say you are a hotel, right? You own a hotel. A latent condition is by default what is the issue and what is the problem that a hotel manager and a hotel owner is constantly, struggling with. So for example, with hotels these days, they are having, especially if they're still starting from quite a low position, they find it hard to maintain a certain amount of hotel clients within the year. So it's very unpredictable for hotel managers, right? So some months it can be super high, some months it can be super low. It's not like with agencies, coaches, and gyms where it's more uniform throughout the year. Hotel managers do have to deal with these ups and downs and try to guess when it's okay to actually spend a higher budget, when it's not good to spend this amount of money and stuff like that. So that's the latent condition. In short form, just client acquisition. Let's be honest. In short form is client acquisition. And from that latent condition, you want to press on that pain point just a little bit to get that little bit of attention. That could be through an email, that could be through a cold call, that could be through a text, through an ad, whatever it takes to get that first bit of attention. That is what you need, right? And from the attention, you need to generate some level of interest. So that could mean that you get the attention, and for example, what I did is I generated your attention from just one simple email just detailing what we actually do and whether or not you're interested in that. And if you were interested, then I send you a video of what I actually mean by what I said in the email prior to that. And if you're interested, if you actually show interest in that, I have just converted your attention to interest. Now, we need interest to be converted into appointments, right? Depending on what systems you use, the conversion rates could be higher, could be lower, blah, blah, blah. And from appointments to shows, right? This is probably one of the aspects that a lot of people actually, maybe not gyms, because gyms actually they don't really have this middle section here. But let's say with coaches and agencies, getting appointments to shows is actually a super overlooked aspect of the client acquisition system. Because believe it or not, this has a conversion rate itself as well. Let's say this conversion rate's 10%, 10%, 10%. This also has a conversion rate, and it does carry throughout the rest of the system, right? Now, we want the shows to become prime prospects, primed prospects to become closed deals. So that is the general gist of what a client acquisition system is. Now, again, latent conditions, the psychological and situational conditions of someone's life, prime prospects on a sales call who have been primed by the right questions, etc. and etc. Right? And if you keep going, these are a little bit of examples that I gave you at the bottom here, and they're examples for what we like to call metrics. So, not sure if you remember at the very top here, this broad layout of a client acquisition system, the metrics is probably one of the most important pillars of the client acquisition system. Because here's the thing, you got to think about client acquisition almost like the process of evolution, right? You start from the original species, you get placed in a certain environment, the market, and you're forced to actually change and adapt your DNA and kill off those strands of DNA that actually don't serve you anymore, and actually, mutate different DNA that actually serves you better within the environment that you're in, and in this case, the market that you're in, right? So when I say metrics, I mean looking at the whole picture and understanding where the conversion rates start to drop off, like actually having the metrics and analytics in front of you. And once you have the analytics in front of you, that's when you can actually see, oh wow, at this hinge of the client acquisition system, this is where we actually lose a lot of our prospects, or a lot of our appointments, or a lot of warm leads, right? Make sense? Cool. Now this is an example. So let's say, right, we sent a bunch of different emails, and 177 emails were positive replies, and that generates 16 appointments, right? The way that we calculate that conversion rate obviously is 16 divided by 177 times 100, and that's a 9% conversion rate. And you kind of do that throughout this whole process. Obviously, we would need to write out a process that actually suits you best, but this is a basic standard of what a process should actually look like. And we're gonna analyze all the conversion rates for you as well. But yeah, so these are some examples. Now let me just see what's important here. So again, conversion rates is probably the most important part. The metrics are probably the most important part of client acquisition. So you must be tracking this. If you're not tracking your analytics, then I don't know what you're doing with your business. Like that, not tracking your analytics and not tracking your metrics is kind of like just walking through the world blind, with no guard dog, no nothing, just completely blind. Like you don't know what you're doing. You're just trying shit out and then seeing if it's working. Most cases, it's not going to work, right? Because in most cases, when you just try shit, most cases you change way too much at the same time, and then it might do well, it might do worse, but then even if it does do well, you don't know what actually changed for you to get that result. So at the end of the day, you're still walking blind, and you're never going to reach that point where you can actually scale, right? So yeah, I don't understand what people are doing when they're not tracking their analytics. So again, only idiots build client acquisition systems without a system for tracking their metrics. Metrics are the most important thing to the function of a client acquisition system. So please, if you're not doing this already, between this and the time for your booking, please try and put a analytical tracker within place. Okay? Cool. So we also have a thing called KPIs, right? So here at Z2H Acquisition, we like to follow our own KPIs. And the KPIs obviously do matter and do depend on what business niche that you're in. So for example, so we actually used to work with a lot of marketing agencies in the past, and their KPIs were lower at the very brim of the funnel, and they do start to get higher and higher and higher once they reach the end of the funnel. Because it's like, if someone shows interest within your service, that being marketing as a whole, once they actually show that interest, which is pretty low conversion rate at the very top, it's around 3%, 4%. Once you get down to the bottom, that is completely your responsibility to actually get that conversion rate as high as possible. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't have, let's say, a 40% conversion rate in terms of appointments to clients, or 60% conversion rate in terms of, landing page visits and appointments. Do you know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Now, yeah. So another example of a KPI. I'm sure I don't want to talk like you're an idiot here, but just in case you don't know what a KPI is, a KPI is an average standard for an event or a part of a system, right? So, for example, the healthy heart rate of an adult. So that's around 60 to 80 beats per minute. So that is a KPI. That is a standard healthy, key performance indicator. and healthy BMI, healthy blood pressure, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. So here's the thing. We almost treat your conversion rates and metrics almost like a doctor prescribing or diagnosing an illness, right? What we actually do is we don't just go in, look at things haphazardly and just give you a prescription for what you need to do. No, that's not what we do. We actually have to be very meticulous, ask a bunch of questions, know exactly what's wrong, so that if we do give you a prescription, do give you a method, do give you a strategy as to how you can improve your conversion rates in your client acquisition system, it's like you don't have to second guess yourself. There's no guessing when it comes to this. There is right and there is wrong. It's very binary when it comes to this stuff. A lot of business owners, when they do first start out doing business, or when they actually don't understand how to run businesses, they treat it as if it is the harder you work, the better you'll do. No, it's not that. You got to treat it as if you are the doctor to your own patient, which is your business. So you gotta diagnose, essentially. So we have the healthy heart rate, the healthy BMI, which is your KPI, and we have your conversion rate. And if it's above average, then no complaining. But if it's below average, we know, all right, cool, there's something wrong here. Or maybe there's something wrong with the system as a whole, or it could be something wrong with your actual the way that you present yourself, or so on and so forth. You get what I'm saying. So, and again, we have another example. So we have the KPI of 15% to 25% of a Loom video view rate. So I'm not sure if you remember, but the very first time we made contact was with a Loom video. And essentially what a Loom video is this is a Loom video. A Loom video is a platform. Let me actually make my screen a little bit larger so that you can see me a little bit better. A Loom video, especially in the agencies game, is very, very important for us. We like to use Loom videos so that we give you value within a short space of time, so that we don't have to worry about you not understanding things, because you can always replay the video. You can always look back at the documents, right? You can always look back at the results that we get for our clients and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's a Loom rate, and this is a 15 to 25%. We like to stick to a 15 to 25% Loom view rate for our Looms. And another example would be a 3% to 5% positive reply rate to the Looms, and 1.5% to 2.5% appointment booking rate to our Calendly schedule, or Equity schedule. So those are some other examples, and the rest of this, it's I can explain on the call, because I have sort of explained pretty much all the basics. Let me see what else is there. So the keystone metrics. So this is just a KPI anyway, like I just explained that one. So okay, so I can explain the conversion tool variables. So conversion tool variables is a certain tool that you can use within your system that you implement and can actually either hinder your conversion or actually better your conversion. And depending on how well you use the tool, hinder your conversion rates or better your conversion rates. So for example, another one would be Loom, or the same one that I said before would be a Loom cold email or Loom warm email. So we like to stick with Loom warm emails, because I don't know about you, but I don't like receiving videos of people that I don't even know or have no contact with. It just doesn't do it for me. I feel like I'm a little bit of a dickhead when it comes to it, because whenever I see a video of someone just talking to me through the camera, that they're stuttering all over the place, they haven't emailed me first beforehand, and once I get to the video, like instantly I'm not interested. So That's why I don't like sending Loom cold emails. Sometimes it works for different agencies. Sometimes it works for coaches, and I wouldn't see how it would work for like gyms and hotels and stuff like that. That wouldn't really make sense. But Loom warm video, standard cold email, a cold DM, a cold call process, a nurturing process. So a nurturing process would be more so a Facebook ad system, a Facebook ad funnel, TikTok ad funnel, Google ads funnel, SEO, right? So that's more of like a nurturing process, and that's more of something that's used within the hotel businesses and gym businesses. So so these are just certain combinations, certain variables that could be suited in the ascent conversion in your to ascent your conversion in your market. So again, it's like natural selection, right? So we have nature, we have your organisms, and there's different genotypes, and there's variations in DNA, and basically we just want to A/B test and find out what works. Really, this gets super, super deep because you can do this with pretty much any single thing that you have within your client acquisition system. But we've done this for so long that we kind of have a knack for this, right? So it's like we can look at what you're doing right now, and then we can understand, all right, cool. Most likely 90% chance it's this. We'll change this, and then within a week, we'll see what the conversion rates are, right? It's really that simple. It's really, really that simple. Obviously, you'll need quite a few case studies. You can't just settle with 100 case studies. You need 500 case studies at least. So, that's why I do give it, 3 months or so with the 90-day program and stuff like that. So if you wanted to know what the 90-day program is, we basically go through all of this. It's super, super deep detail. And we just make sure that everything that you do is in alignment to each other, and everything is, high converting, and there's no leakage in the system. At least we try to plug the system as much as we possibly can. So we have, there's the market sets the conditions, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. Yeah, this is just another way of explaining it, right? So you can kind of think of the client acquisition system almost like the scientific method. So you have your hypothesis. So that is, we come to you, or you can do this yourself. You can try and do this yourself. You look at your business, you take a step back, and you make a hypothesis. You go, I think if I make this change in this system, this is the result that is going to happen, right? For example, let's say you're a physics professor, and your hypothesis is if you drop this ball without moving your arm at all, you just drop it, it is going to fall straight down. We know this, right? But if you drop it whilst moving your arm 3 meters per second to the left, then there will be a trajectory of the ball, and you calculate the trajectory of the ball, and then you say, okay, so this is my hypothesis. This is my prediction for what is going to happen. That is your hypothesis for your business and that specific variable that you change. So we want to make sure that everything remains the same, right? We want to make sure that when you do, so we want to make sure that when we do make a very small adjustment to your client acquisition system, that one variable, all other variables remain the same. So ceteris paribus, right? So if you don't know what ceteris paribus is, it is a term, Latin term, that means everything remaining the same. So when everything is the same and uniform and nothing's changing, universal, and you only change one variable, then you can actually start to see the impacts of that one change. And that, depending on how experienced you are, how accurate your hypothesis is. So you test your hypothesis, you observe the results, and then you rinse and repeat, right? And this can happen you can do this multiple times. Me or you, we got to figure out what works Basically, essentially, we just got to figure out what works. Now, okay, what else? So yeah, that is pretty much it for this quick recap and crash course on the client acquisition system. Sorry, I just got something in my eye. Now, after explaining all of this, you should have a sort of basic understanding of what a client acquisition system is. And then you can imagine what it would be like if we automate this whole thing for you. So if we actually understand what we need to do to maintain the highest conversion rates, and then once we do that, automate the whole system. You can imagine the results from that, right? So yeah, now that you know the basics, you are ready for our quick strategy call. It's going to be half an hour. Please make sure that you have, a pen and paper so that you can take notes. And yeah, I have to go to bed. But apart from that, I'll speak to you soon.